This is TWiT.
I can see an actor going to the Unreal Engine's metahuman technology, and look how Unreal Epic publicizes this. Look how easy high-fidelity digital humans made easy, that you can create background actors from software that are good and realistic. Now, obviously, it's trained on something, but do the people whose faces were used in the training, do they have rights to the result? I don't know. I mean, and I can see why. So what I'm thinking is happening is, you're right, Mike, there's probably not a lot of legal recourse for Sarah Silverman or Thomas Kincaid, the painter of light, to get money from OpenAI. But there's definitely this feeling in the world of creatives that, well, they owe us something.
Sure.
Is that unreasonable?
I don't think it's an unreasonable feeling. Or, I mean, anyone's feelings are, I'm not going to...
Feelings don't win in a court of law. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just not sure that there's a legal scenario that makes sense, that is going to make them happy or make them feel whole.
Yeah.
And
it's something though we're all dealing with now in this world of large language models.
But again, like Janko was saying, where it's like, I'm not particularly worried. I have 51,000 articles written, and I actually hope that AI reads through all of them, and that I could go into ChatGPT and say, write a textured article about X.
Yeah.
And not being Twitter X, but maybe, write an article about this. And I know it's not going to be great, but would that help me be more productive? I think it might be. And I think that would actually be useful. So I think, not that in every case that there's an obvious way that it makes people more productive or more useful or whatever. But I think there are a lot of cases where that is going to be true. And I think that the focus for people should be to look for that. And the example I've used, and I think it was even mentioned in that article about the body scanning, was Grimes, the singer who released the AI version of her voice and said, anyone go ahead and make songs with AI Grimes, and you just have to give me 50% cut of any revenue.
Very important. You have to give me 50%.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's a contractual setup that says, I am going to, instead of trying to shut this down and block it, I'm going to encourage it, but structured in a way that I benefit from. And so I think that the more that people start looking at this technology is in, how can I make it, a useful thing, rather than saying this has to be stopped entirely. I think the sort of more forward-looking approach, rather than I need to get paid for what happened before, it's just going to be a more overall beneficial setup.
And there's probably models to make that work for smaller creators too, when it comes to sort of collective licensing models, the type of things that have worked in the music industry for decades, essentially, right? So the unions have a big influence, obviously, in Hollywood. If they were to structure a contract and say, you can only make films with union actors if you pay, 3% into this big pool, and we're going to dole it out to all our members as a flat fee at the end of the year for their use in AI work, because it's going to happen regardless. It's a lot harder to track those types of things, but I think there's probably models to make it also work financially.
Yeah, and that's interesting, but that also gets tricky, right? Because then you could say okay, I mean, that sounds great. Have this 3% fund that then gets distributed to all the background actors or whatever who were used to train the models. But then you get to this world in which every background actor in every show or movie is from that, and you block out the ability for new actors to get into that pool, right? And then suddenly you have this people who are 85, 90 years old getting paid for being, the model on which a 27-year-old was based on or whatever. And so, I'm not against that kind of model where there's some sort of collective licensing or however you want to structure it, but that it does raise a bunch of questions about how that actually plays out in practice, and then what that means for the overall market as well.
Maybe this really is
in the end,
the future,
in the end, as more people, are being as
computers and technology is taking over certain jobs for people. People aren't going to be in
Right.
those places. So the thoughts of, universal income, or what do we do in order to give people different types of jobs while, computers and, other things are taking over for those places, definitely become something that we need to discuss.
I feel like there's a certain amount of whistling past the graveyard, though, with you and Mike and Janko and me, because I have more than 20,000 hours of content on the internet publicly available, and you too, Georgia. You're putting all those videos up. That we say, well, no one can duplicate what we do. What we do is so special. As humans, we're so good that, go ahead, let them have it. That may be a little short-term okay, but long-term, that may be problematic. We may regret that, because you're right. Right now, it's a middle schooler's report on Sarah Silverman. But in some amount of time, 5, 10, 15 years, it might be better than Sarah Silverman.
Well, let's say it. It's probably going to be much faster than 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? Like in 1 year, we can already see that
It's happening
these articles
fast.
are
Yeah.
quite good. Like, not always. And if they're bad, they're really, really terrible. But these are things that I think that everyone, we're made to think that for me, it'll be different and that I don't have to worry.
I'm too good to be duplicated.
We feel much more comfortable. That's our safe zone. So as humans, we like to stay in that feeling of everything's safe. And then we have other personality types that are the opposite, that are like, the world is crumbling and
people like me.
We have to wear the tinfoil hat. And so because of those two extremes,
Yes.
which probably neither of them are accurate, we end up not really taking care of things, because people are like, someone that says that, we have to make sure that we've actually made sure that contracts cover people for, maybe you not just that you use the license and you get paid, but do you have a say in which way is your likeness going to be used and how?
Yeah.
Like that's an area of contract law that is relatively weak, because it's like we can just use it for everything and anything now and forever. Don't ask us. And we can change the contract at any time. We'll kind of let you know, but it's considered that you've already accepted that. Like there's certain areas where it's like, that seems much more sketchy. So I think that we need to kind of be in that middle ground where, trust in the world, but make sure that you take care of your stuff as well.
That's a psychologist's point of view, is the two extremes. And no, I think that's important. That's an important insight.
The one thing I would add though is like, I don't think that, like right now, yes, the AI is not as good. I'm sure that the AI is going to catch up. But I actually would like that, right? I mean,
yeah,
I feel
again,
like
whistling past the graveyard, Mike.
I don't know. I feel like I write about 10 to 15% of what I would actually like to write, and I would love to be able to point
a little
Mike
plastic
Masnick
pal.
AI, and point it at this story is happening. I want to write a Mike Masnick take on it. I think that would be really handy for me.
What do you feel about someone else saying, I want to write a Mike Masnick thing, and I want to say this is in the likeness of, and I'm going to be paid by the people that usually pay you. Like it can go a little bit further till you might not be as comfortable with them. Like I would mind someone getting therapy from an AI. But then if they're doing like therapy, like Georgia Dow does therapy, and now
I want a therapist in the style of Georgia Dow. I think that's a good.
And then it's my face slightly altered, that's giving that. Like there's a point where the comfort becomes not so sure I'm as comfortable at this state of where it could go to.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I might be wired weird in that, like, I wouldn't mind if somebody was creating, Mike Masnick style things, especially because if they're not doing a good job, then I can call that out. But just the fact that, like, if somebody thinks that my takes have enough value that they would create them, like,
there's a certain amount of an ego gratification.
But you wouldn't be happy if somebody created a website called, I don't know, techsoil.com and Mike Masnick writes a whole bunch of pieces that look exactly like something you would write with your point of view and your ideas.
I don't know. I might not mind that. Like that's kind of fascinating to me.
You no longer
right?
got paid.
Spoken
like,
as a technology fatalist, but I'm a kind of the.
I don't get paid now.
Yeah, no, you're right, but it's the same thing. That's a really good point you raised, Georgia, because like I said, there's 20,000 hours or more of my audio and video. It'd be trivial to synthesize me, and I'm sure at some point AI get good enough to synthesize me that it's indistinguishable from the original. If I use that, that's fine. If I can retire and all these shows are done by an AI, that's fine. But if somebody created a TWiT clone and did all of that and started eating our audience up, I would not be happy about that.
Here's the question. Do you really think that the people who support you and follow the shows because of your involvement are going to be so quick to jump to an AI generated version of you?
Not so quick.
The core fan base, no. The real issue is confusion. And we are going to face this as we approach the election in the U.S. in 2024, that there will be plenty of people who cannot distinguish between the real deal and a generated deal. And then you have all sorts of problems with misrepresentation, disinformation. I think that is something to legitimately be concerned about.
But those are different questions, right? That's not a question about the economic value.
That's not about copyright.
Right?
No, it's about disinformation. I've just received the figures from 27,447 episodes of TWiT with me on them. And since each episode's at least 3 or 4 hours long, we're getting close to 100,000 hours of content out there.
You might be the ultimate model for AI.
But I'm like you, Mike.
You might be the king.
I would just retire and be like, hey, cool. That's eternity, man. Albert Einstein, forget it. I'll
it's also different.
Anything.
So because you own TWiT, right? Or you are.
Yeah, I have a trademark.
You found a TWiT.
Yeah.
So imagine you work, or think back. I don't know how long that has been for you. But
almost 20 years.
Just to work for other radio stations, and they were like, "No, we're not going to hire you anymore.
Right.
AI
Leo.
He's much cheaper."
Or even like, what if Leo, you're able to replace Ant and Jeff and everyone else with AI versions of them. That kind of sucks
now
for
we're
them,
talking.
right?
I never thought of that. Excellent. By the way, Mike.
Or what if they use your likeness to do something inappropriate or, misogynistic or racist?
Yes.
And now
that's the
are,
that's the disinformation side of that. That's right.
Or
Put
something
words
that you
in my
don't
mouth.
believe in.
That's right.
Yes, exactly.
And people don't distinguish
it can become really creepy.
Yeah. I can guarantee you before 2024, there will be fakes of Joe Biden saying horrific things. I drink the blood of children and enjoy it. And that will be so well done that there will be people fooled by it. Mostly people who want to be fooled by it. By the way, bad news, Mike.
Good point.
Techsoil.com is already taken, but I think techmulch.com is available. So
Excellent.
Hurry. Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI Learning's newest tools strengthen your team on every level. Insights provides an overview of where your team needs the most help, while Cyber Skills fortifies skills for non-IT pros. Try it for yourself, then bring your team along. Fill out the form at go.acilearning.com/twit for a free 2-week trial.